Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to watch. I've got an update for you guys on this pretty big severe weather event that we've got unfolding across the Central Plains today. Now, we also have some tropical trouble out here in the Atlantic. We could see Tropical Storm Emily on the horizon, and then we also do have a new pattern change as we are thankfully going to be seeing a little bit less cool, hot air out in the northern U.S., but the southern U.S. is still going to be baking. As we've still been seeing those temperatures in the 110s. It is super, super hot. So we're going to be talking about all that in today's update. All right, so let's get started here looking at our radar, and we're pretty active right now. We have some tropical downpours out here in the southeast, some pretty strong storms entering the Jacksonville area. You can see that there's a little bit of a curve here, so there's a line of storms that looks pretty strong, and I've been monitoring this lately, but looks like there's a pretty strong line of storms that's going to slam through Jacksonville. So if you're in Jacksonville, Florida, or any part of northern Florida, watch out for some of these storms if you haven't been impacted already. Um, then we've got another area of storms that's just south of Omaha, Nebraska. This one has been severe. This produced damaging wind gusts and dropped some pretty large hail a few hours ago. This is making its way down into parts of northwestern Missouri. And then the main part of today's update is this severe weather up here. This is what's going to be causing the problems today. We already have an enhanced risk for severe weather just because of that storm. So we've got 3 areas of storms today. The rest of the U.S. is going to see some spotty showers. You can see showers moving their way into eastern PA. You got scattered showers and thunderstorms across parts of the Southwest. So that's kind of a relief to see some more of that moisture. It's still very, very humid, but more of that rainfall and moisture kind of bring down those temperatures. But there is monsoon moisture that's really surging up from the Pacific Ocean just because it's been so hot out there because of El Nino. Um, Now we also have some more scattered showers and thunderstorms in the rest of the U.S. So we're going to be moving on to our alerts. And you can see that right now you've got a heat advisory to start out with. You can see that this heat advisory is including all of Louisiana except for the part that's under that excessive heat warning. You've got pretty much all of Mississippi. You have a lot of Arkansas, a bit of northern Arkansas. You guys are going to be a little bit cooler, so you won't have to deal with all this heat at the moment. You got parts of eastern Oklahoma, parts of central and southern Kansas. There is another excessive heat warning out for parts of southeastern Kansas. Then here's your severe thunderstorm watch. This is the main part of today. You can see that this is including 4 counties or 5 counties of northeastern Wyoming down into parts of southwestern South Dakota and then western Nebraska. So all of you guys are going to be under a severe thunderstorm watch for tonight, okay? So when you get under a severe thunderstorm watch, that tells you that for that time, the National Weather Service has detected that for your time under the severe thunderstorm watch, that there will be conditions that will favor severe thunderstorm development or severe thunderstorms entering your area. As we already do have, it appears that we have 3 or 4 counties that are currently under severe thunderstorm warnings, 1 county under a severe weather statement. So storms already got going around here. And then maybe some severe thunderstorm warnings down here in the Jacksonville area. We see that. We see some flood watches and warnings out here too. And then we've got a red flag warning up here for parts of Oregon and Washington State, down into Idaho and parts of Montana. So we're going to be moving on to our NAM3CAM model for the north central, and we're going to be mainly looking at the western to the left part of the screen, just because this thunderstorm development is really, really far west. It's like all the way over here. This is our main area of focus today. I'll circle it just so it doesn't get in the way of anything. This is exactly what we're going to be looking at today. So starting off around 3 p.m. today, you had nothing going on except this one little tiny pop-up storm they've got racing around in eastern South Dakota. And then we have to get all the way into 8 p.m., so pretty much just 15 minutes ago. This is where we start getting that low pressure storm, settled, and then we start seeing that line of storms start building up just across, parts of extreme eastern Wyoming and areas that are just east of the Rockies. That's where we're going to start seeing that development. Once they pass through those mountains and they get the warm and cold air mixed together, that's when the atmosphere gets stirred up and starts to, get a little bit more stormy, I guess you could say. But look at this rapid development though. Once we get into tonight, this is gonna tell you guys that these storms are not stopping. They are going to be charging through this area throughout the rest of tonight. So you may think that that the rounds of severe weather is gonna be over once we get into the night hours. No, probably not until early morning tomorrow. As we see this even just get stronger, it fights off some high pressure out here. That could be could be strong. That could slow it down a little. You can see over 1,020 millibars of high pressure up here that's just centered right over the storm. But look at this massive hail core that we've got. Looks like this looks like trouble right here. I think this looks like a pretty nasty hailstorm. I would say that's probably going to be the main threat from this, but there's going to be damage going guys with this too. You might even have some microbursts with this. So you really got to take this seriously. This seems pretty dangerous to me. Because this is gonna be moving fast. It's gonna try and get itself as far south down into Kansas and Missouri, just because it's a little bit cooler up here. It wants to get that warmer air. It really needs that warmer air to keep going. So it's gonna try and get as far south as it can. But we get into 3 a.m. So this is pretty much the middle of the night. The only thing left that we have is just this line of storms that's going to be charging their way through Nebraska. I don't know if this would be. I think this would be approaching Lincoln, Nebraska. I think Lincoln, Nebraska is somewhere around here in central or northern Nebraska. Um, but it's still getting fought off. It's still fighting off some of that high pressure. That's it's still at 1,024 millibars. That's pretty high. And so it's gonna have to deal with that, and then we get to 4 a.m. This is probably going to be when it starts to weaken. It's still got a line of storms to deal with, stretching all the way down from the Missouri and Kansas border up into southeastern parts of southeastern Nebraska. This is a little bit close to Omaha right here. And then we get your main couplet of storms that's going to be moving their way across central Nebraska. But behind it, it may try and get a little bit bigger. This is probably going to be your main low pressure center that's kind of it's controlling the system, but it's going to try and do something kind of crazy where it's going to make this huge line of storms, and it's going to try and form like an actual like storm train, I guess you could say. But it fails to do that. It is not nearly as strong enough to do. It's not nearly strong enough to do that as some other storms would be. And we get into the morning hours of tomorrow. So you're waking up tomorrow, and this storm is pretty much almost done. You may wake up in portions of South Dakota and eastern Nebraska to some rumbles of thunder, maybe some small hail. But that would be it. It's gonna be pretty much done after that, and that fizzles out, and that summertime heat really slows it down. But behind it, there may be another line of storms that could get going. I think right now we have just a um, marginal risk for severe weather, which would be a level 1 out of 5 for this area. But I don't expect this to be too crazy. But we could get through. I guess this would be Tuesday. We get through Tuesday. And, it does try and do something. You got some good looking storms up here in northern Missouri, southern Iowa. But those don't really do much, and they kind of just they fizzle out once you get into Tuesday afternoon. So we're going to be moving on to our SPC, and you can see right off the bat that we have a pretty good risk for severe weather. We have an enhanced risk that's like for the third day in a row that we've had an enhanced risk for somewhere in the country. This is a level 3 out of 5 risk, including parts of northwestern Wyoming, parts of southwestern South Dakota, and not quite northwestern Nebraska, but there may be a small tweak in the forecast where they can include that area. But I would just leave it as that. So it's not the biggest populated area. It's not. It's it's a small area, and it's not really there's not really any major cities in the way of this. But there is Rapid City right in the middle of this. So if you're in Rapid City, watch out. The entire metro area of Rapid City could definitely get hit by some storms. So, if you're anywhere around, if you're anywhere around Rapid City, so like, maybe a few miles north of Rapid City, you could definitely get a good chance of seeing some storms out here. But for the enhanced risk, you've got a population of pretty much 230,000 people, including Rapid City, South Dakota, Gillette or Gillette, Wyoming, Spearfish, South Dakota, Rapid Valley, South Dakota, and Sturgis, South Dakota. So, if you're in any of those towns or cities or that area, if you're just anywhere near those areas I just pointed out, just watch out for some of that severe weather. It's definitely possible. But if you're actually living in one of those cities or towns I just named, don't be scared, but be prepared tonight. It's gonna be pretty intense, and I think you're gonna get some pretty intense damaging wind gusts and large hail. We got a slight risk coating this area a little bit bigger. You don't have a hugely populated area. Again, it's under 1 million people, but you've got Billings, Montana, Casper, Wyoming, North Platte, North Dakota, I think, or actually, yeah, North Dakota, I believe. You got Sheridan, Wyoming, and then Scottsbluff, North Dakota. And then marginal risk, you got Phoenix, Arizona, Jacksonville, Florida. This is a huge line of marginal risk. That goes all the way down to Jacksonville, Florida, Tucson, Arizona, Kansas City, Missouri, and Mesa, Arizona. So, everyone in the U.S. today is pretty much going to have a small chance, at least a small chance of seeing a thunderstorm today. But the main focus is definitely going to be up here in South Dakota and northwestern Wyoming, or northeastern Wyoming, I should say. We got all the tornado threat for today. It's 2% risk. I don't think we're going to see any tornadoes today. Maybe some spin ups out there. Isolated tornadoes possible. Very unlikely though. Wind threat. This might be the highest start of the day. We're up to a 30% risk for that same area of the enhanced risk, although I think we could see a little bit more of a stronger damaging wind gust threat a little bit farther south. So, this could, it's very unlikely, but this could get extended down into parts of northwestern Nebraska. So if you wanted my opinion on this, I think that I would leave it just at this as your 30% risk for damaging wind gusts. But for now, this is what it's at. It's at a 30% risk for just this one area. But again, this is even a small area. This is just 200,000 people. I know it's kind of sounds like a lot, but really we could have had a bigger deal with this if there were there were more people in the way of this. But that 15% risk, you got 623 million people, and it's for the same area, the slight risk, so that takes care of that. We go to the hail threat. Then we can agree that the hail threat's going to be the biggest threat of the day. We're up to a 30% risk with a hatched risk, including a big chunk of the 15% risk and all of the 30% risk. So that's telling you the hail's going to be a big problem with these storms. So we see for the significant severe. This is the hatched risk of hail. We have Rapid City, South Dakota, Gillette, Wyoming, Sheridan, Wyoming, Scottsbluff, Nebraska, and Spearfish, South Dakota. Watch out for these storms. They are going to be intense. I'd say Rapid City is going to get hit the hardest tonight. Out of all these cities and towns, it's going to be Rapid City. And look, Rapid City's inside the enhanced risk. It's in the middle of the tornado threat. It's in the middle of the 30% wind threat. And what do you know? It's in the right smack dab in the middle of the 30% risk for hail and the hatched risk. So if you're in the hatched risk for hail, it's very likely that you're going to soon, if you haven't already, start hearing like ping pong balls bouncing on your roof, except they're going to be made of ice. That's kind of going to be the story that we're going to hear tonight from many of these people that are out here in the way of the storm in the northwest U.S. We go to tomorrow's outlook, and we do have a marginal risk. This was what I was talking about out here in that same area. I don't expect any, really dangerous storms out here. Maybe some of them could be strong to severe. You never know, but I really do think that the worst is definitely going to be today. Nothing bad is going to happen tomorrow, but there definitely could be some relatively intense storms for you guys tomorrow. Tornado threat tomorrow, less than 2%. Wind threat, 5%. Hail threat, same thing, 5%. Then day 3, you've got nothing. So we're going to be looking at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. So I just want to show you guys this because you know how we've been dealing with this insane heat, and it's been like in the 90s up here. I know I'm on Long Island. It was in the 90s. I made a video about that, and we saw, heat indexes, the heat index going up to 105. Like it was really, really hot, and it still is extremely hot out here in the western US and the southern US. But look at this. You've got some below average temperatures sneaking their way down into the central US. And you have almost a 90%, you almost have 90% below average temperatures out here in, centered in eastern Wyoming. That is a good sign, meaning that there are cold fronts that are now getting settled in northern Canada that are now going back to the kind of the original winter and fall setup, where we see cold fronts going down into the northern U.S. and it's finally going to cool things off. But we have to figure out if is it going to make it to the southern U.S. because the northern U.S. has been very hot, but the people that have been really, really hot, that it's been dangerous, are the people in the southern U.S. So we have to figure out if it's ever going to get to them and cool them down. And you could see that the central US too, and maybe even parts of the southern US are going to get a little bit less hot, but there are still like 80%, 80% above average temperatures for this huge chunk of the southern US. So it's very possible that we will start seeing temperatures get back down under 100 degrees, but it's still roasting out there for many of you guys. But look at this. You guys in the Northeast too. I'm out here on Long Island. We are chill. We're not chilling, but we are very it's feeling very, very nice outside right now. It is in the mid 80s. It's typical summer heat. It's not bad. It's not too chilly, but it's not too hot. And that's going to be the story for everyone in the northern U.S. except the coastal regions of the northwestern U.S. You could see that we have a pretty big area on the western coastline that's in a pretty highly above average temperatures, and that's because there's an area up here, way up here in northwestern Canada, that has been roasting out there, not only because of those wildfires, just because that all this heat has been spreading across the U.S. It's gotten all the way up into the northern U.S. So the entire U.S. was really hot. It got so big, that heat dome, that it even got into Canada. Some warm fronts dealt with it. It wasn't getting any wet, like rainstorms. It was just staying dry. There was wildfires. It just got really, really hot, and so that's why we're seeing this a big chunk of the northwestern U.S. under an above average forecast for temperatures, just because it's relatively close to that same area in Canada that just set records because of how hot it got. But you can see even in Alaska, it's still very, very warm. And even the just the mid-central U.S., it's still leaning above average for your temperatures. But what we really want to see is this near normal right here. I think the best we could see is the majority of the U.S. in the near normal outlook for temperatures. That would be a great thing to have, but I just don't know when we're gonna see that, or if we're even gonna see that, because I'm telling you, that was a very, very bad heat wave that we just experienced. But we'll look at the temperatures. We'll look at the GFS throughout the next 384 hours, and we'll see if we're gonna get some sort of cooler air down into the southern U.S. But starting off today, it does not look like that's going to be happening. Although in the Northeast, you can see you guys, you know, we're in the 60s for some of us, so it's definitely a lot cooler than it used to be. So, and then if you're closer to the coastline, you'll be in the 70s and 80s. That was as of 8 p.m. It's still roasting out here in the southwest. 107 degrees along the border of California and Arizona. And then we get into tomorrow. We're getting to 8 a.m. tomorrow and 2 p.m. tomorrow. You don't even see the same picture. It just gets even hotter out here in the northeast U.S. So no difference tomorrow, although it'll get even hotter. So uh, you know, no good sign of cooler air. But we do have a lot cooler air up here in northeastern Canada. You could see these temperatures up here. We're in the 40s for some of you guys. This is relatively close to the northeast. Now, if we saw a cold front or a trough come down from Canada and swing by, that could definitely bring us down to where we should be normally. But we got to remember, this is 8 p.m. This is not mid afternoon. This is what we should be seeing mid afternoon, and this would be at 8 p.m. But yeah, again, in the western U.S., it's a little bit cooler. I don't even want to say cooler. It's still very, very hot. It's just a little bit less hot. As you can see, it's still 104 degrees out here, and then 109 out in the Dallas area. It's still roasting, but then there's some patchy areas of cooler air, but that's mainly just because of rainstorms. And when the rain comes in, we all know that when rain comes in, it brings down temperatures, and that's what we see with those scattered pockets of cooler air. But we get to 2 p.m. I don't know. This would be Tuesday, and it's pretty much the same story. So what we can learn from this is that it's not going to be that it's not there's not going to be one day where it just gets cooler for everybody. It's going to take a long time. So we can't just expect everything to get everybody's temperatures to get cooler in just one day. It's going to have to take it's going to take a month or 2 months. It really matters on if these wildfires in Canada can settle, or if we'll see more of like a settled and a little bit more of a less strong El Nino, because that also that plays a huge role in temperatures, just because the western U.S. gets heated up when there's El Nino season, but when it's El Nino, that's when the eastern U.S. gets warmed up. But it's completely different this year. Um, we skip ahead into August. This is the beginning of August, and I don't know. I think this would be Thursday. You can see get into 2 p.m. and this is where you do see a little bit of a change. You see a big difference in these temperatures in the northwest. So you can see that I would say these are average temperatures in the northwest. So right now the northwest is pretty much settled, and look at this. Most of the southwest is under 100 degrees. There's a few people that are going to be over 100. But then here you go. You get 110 degrees. It's still very, very hot. You're still getting that heat. But, you can see it's still pretty hot for a few areas of northern Washington State and central Washington State. But I would say the entire region is mainly cooler, and so it could definitely you could definitely see a change in the temperatures for a big chunk of the U.S. And then look at this, the eastern U.S. It could get cooler, and that does involve parts of the coastal regions of the southeast. You can see Florida finally getting back into the 80s, where it should be. Um, but yeah, this is showing me that we will, once we get into August, and maybe eventually once we get into September, we'll finally start seeing these cooler temperatures settle in. But for now, it's still you know extremely hot. But the southern U.S. will eventually also cool down. So set aside the northern U.S. cooling down, we will also see a cool down in the southern U.S., which is a very, very good sign. But let's get ahead deep into August. Let's get all the way to August 15th. All right, so this 2 p.m. August 15th. Look at the major difference we see. This heat dome goes from, all the way over here to over to the eastern U.S. So what that means is that behind the heat, so the heat dome has shifted. So by mid August, we could see a major shift in the heat dome. You could definitely see it here. I mean, look at this. Pretty much everyone's in the hundreds right here in this area I circled. And then behind it, there is a lot of room for that cooler air to move in down from Canada. And that's going to be a good sign because that cooler air could be strong enough to push this heat dome out of the way and completely off to sea. And that's going to put so much more room in the U.S. that, to just put more cooler air into the eastern United States. But then we go back to the western United States, and then it's still gonna be hot. It's still you're still over 100 degrees. It's still hot, but it's not looking bad out here, and that's a good sign. So I think that it's gonna take probably another month. I think once we get to September, August, like mid to late August to early September is when we'll finally start seeing some cooler air enter the U.S. But that's gonna put us into our last part of the update, which is going to be the tropics. So we'll obviously continue looking at the temperatures in future updates, but for now you just gotta look ahead and see kind of just you have to make predictions on when the cooler air could eventually arrive. So we go to the tropics right now. This is our current outlook, and I am very, very concerned about this system right here. This is our tropical wave. This is Invest 96L. It has a high 80% chance of development through the next 7 days. But look at this. Next 48 hours, there is a 70% chance of development. So, this used to be just a few hours ago, this was a 50% chance of development. This went up 20% in just 3 hours. So it is rapidly intensifying. And then we also do have another system over here. This is Invest 97L. And this one has it's the second time it's tried to develop, and it still has a shot at it. It's got a 30% chance of development, and you've got environmental conditions appear generally favorable for tropical development. So we definitely have the ingredients out there. It's just a matter of how long can this storm continue producing those showers and thunderstorms. But we look at the description for our Invest 96L. So for the Central Tropical Atlantic, showers and thunderstorm activity has become a little more organized in association with an area of low pressure located about 700 miles east-northeast of the Leeward Islands. In environmental conditions are forecasted to be marginally favorable for development over the next few days, and a tropical depression is likely to form during the next day or so. So it's looking like tomorrow this will be like TD5 or 6. I don't know what number we're up to. I think it's TD5. But I think that we could definitely see Tropical Storm Emily as soon as, I don't know, Tuesday or Wednesday. So it's very close. This is very, very close to becoming a tropical depression, and I think that's pretty much certain by now that we'll see a tropical depression, at least a tropical depression out of this. But the system is expected to move northwestward and at about 15 miles per hour during the next day or so, and then turning. Let me see. It's my camera's in the way of this. And then turning northward over the central subtropical Atlantic by late Monday or Tuesday. So formation changes through the next 48 hours. High 70%. So it's looking like it's very likely that we'll have development in the next 48 hours, meaning like tonight or tomorrow, then maybe Tuesday. And then I think this will become a tropical storm, which would be Tropical Storm Emily, probably anywhere Wednesday to Thursday or Friday. But we'll continue watching both systems. I think I have a lot more faith in Invest 95L or 96L, I should say. But 97 it has a chance. It's just not exactly a higher chance than what we've got with 96. So that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for coming to watch, and we'll see you guys in the next video. So with those severe thunderstorms, don't be scared. Be prepared. I think once we get through, once we get to like 3-4 a.m. tomorrow, you'll be fine with it, and we'll see a pretty good downcrease of thunderstorms, severe thunderstorms to be specific, in the next few days. So that'll be a relief. And then we also we gotta continue just watching the cold air, kind of where it's gonna be, and then when it could potentially finally spread into the United States. So thanks for coming to watch, and we'll see you guys in the next video.